What was the state of play with your players? Any injuries over the internationals?
We've got a doubt over Glenn Whelan. He came off in the game for Ireland. I think he lasted about 25 minutes, so clearly he had a problem in the game. We're a little bit hopeful that it might have settled down. Sometimes these things are compromised by a little bit of stiffness or being locked up a little bit, so we've released him from all that, so that might have a positive for us, but at the moment he is a doubt because he hasn't been on the training pitch since he's come back in, so we'll see if we can get him out today and then we can make a decision on Glenn.
He's kind of one of those unsung heroes, isn't he, really?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we've got a nice base and a nice platform at the moment, and clearly Glenn, as one of the defensive midfield players, has really done a good job for us in there, but we're a little bit stretched as well because Jeff Cameron's not available still, so there's going to have to be a change in there clearly, but it's just the way we go. We'll have to wait and see.
A worthwhile round of internationals for you and friendlies?
Well,
so late in the year.
Yeah, well, November ones I always thought were for playoff games and what have you, and but there seems to be more fixtures in the calendar and everything's squeezed in. Double headers in November are a little bit hard to take. Some of them were qualification games. The second games were friendlies, which was a little bit hard to take. We got Marko Arnautovic who played 290. So yeah, there's a demand on good players. Clearly we know that they're internationals when we sign them, so we can't complain too much, but just fragments the season somewhat.
Do you ever make the point, if you've got like a second international, it's a friendly like Marko, to the managers, can you spare him or whatever, or is it pointless these days?
I think you can try and build that relationship, but I think you have to allow international managers to. They're under their own pressures. You have to allow them to pick the teams that they want, I suppose. But you can highlight issues that they may be unaware of in terms of preparation of players prior to games and the amount of training that they need or don't need. I think you're well within your rights to do that. But influencing whether a player gets selected or not, I think that's beyond us now.
And when it comes to being away on internationals, there's a big hoo-ha this week about Wayne Rooney being picked up at 4 in the morning. I know there are two schools of thought looking at it, that Wayne was just having his picture taken and now players are going to be put off from doing that sort of thing again. But you've been an international manager. If you give players a day off, there's not a lot you can dictate to what they do in that, is there, or can you?
No, I think everybody does it differently. It's I wasn't averse to giving time off within the international period. I think it's difficult once they're released from the squad. Then it's very difficult to influence what each individual is going to do. You just have to hope that they make the right decisions. Probably, if you are released from the squad, then you have to have a certain level of behaviour maybe that's deemed acceptable to the public who obviously want you to see you play well in the forthcoming internationals, irrespective of any downtime. So you just got to be careful and be a little bit more aware of people's reactions to things that maybe you find or thought at the time were acceptable.
You probably didn't need this break, did you? Because you just really found form the last 4 games.
Yeah, well, we're on a good run, 6 games unbeaten, so we're delighted with that. But we felt that was going to happen. We had difficult fixtures initially and didn't acquit ourselves as well as we could have done in 1 or 2 of the games. But we had a period of games coming up that we felt we could maximise, and for the most part, that's what we've done. I don't think there's too many teams, apart from I think Chelsea, maybe Arsenal, who've got more points in this 6-game period that we're on. So that's good. We've got a home game to come as well, so we're all trying to get maximum points in that if we can. So we've got games against teams that we will go up against and be positive against, but clearly in the Premier League there comes periods where you go up against teams that are at the top end, and you have to really pull out all the stops, and we'll have that period once again like we did at the beginning. We'll have that period around the Christmas time, so it's important that we get points on the board now.
From what you saw in training yesterday, is that resurgence back on against Bournemouth?
Yeah, I was really pleased with the attitude of the group. Everybody came back in good heart, and the intensity of the work yesterday was good. Sometimes if you have a break in midweek, then the first day back is a little bit slower, just because they just need to switch on. But to a man, they were excellent. So that's good leading into the weekend. It'd be a difficult game for us, Bournemouth. Just had a little setback in the last couple of results, but you look at them on paper and they look a strong, athletic side with good pace. So there'll be a test, I'm sure.
Your opposite number this weekend, Eddie Hughes. There's a lot written about him. He is a young man, bright thing. Years ago, a young British manager might be able to achieve anything in the home game. We were talking yesterday with Tony Pulis about whether that's limited now with the top 5 teams, probably always looking towards the sexy foreign manager route rather than. Do you think it's limited for a young British manager?
I think it's becoming more and more difficult, unfortunately. And if you look at the Premier League, British managers are in the minority now, so it's more difficult. There's more foreign ownership as well. I think a lot of key appointments at football clubs, the guys in the top jobs, their background seems to be more on a marketing side, so they're always thinking about big names and big reputations, because that drives their business from a financial point of view. So it's not always based on just football ability or football knowledge or your ability to shape teams and make them competitive. There's more to it these days. So it can be very, very difficult for somebody who hasn't had the benefit of maybe getting the top jobs in their own domestic league without really any kind of CV. They seem to be parachuted into top Italian clubs, top Portuguese clubs, and as a consequence they're able to win trophies in their domestic league, which is very difficult for British managers in the English league. So because of those trophies that they have on their CV, they're flagged up as being better and maybe superior to what's available here, which we as British managers will go up against. But that's the way it is. That's the lie of the land at the moment. We have to accept that.
How do you rate what Eddie's done, and also the style of play that he seems to have stuck with you?
Yeah, well, he's had the benefit of continuity, and I think that's always a maximum benefit. Clearly, he's got a lot of responsibility and a lot of trust from the owners and the club itself. He's been there a long time, and they trust what he says and what he does and what he wants to do. So when you have that situation, then you have that flexibility, you have that understanding that you can shape the club, and you view things longer term rather than maybe a lot of managers go into situations and they find themselves making short-term decisions for situations that really need a long-term answer to. So he's done really well. The key was clearly to stay in the Premier League, which he's been able to do. They look stronger this year as well. They had key players out last year because of injuries, and they've got a couple of those back. So they look more equipped to have a good season this year.
Mark, chairman's come out and told everyone Joe Allen's not for sale and nobody else is for sale in January. Must be nice to hear, even if you knew it yourself anyway.
Yeah, well, he's just come to the club. He's having a great start to his career here. He's on a good contract, long contract from my point of view. So that's great. I think it's worked out for all parties, to be perfectly honest. Joe needed to play week in, week out to show exactly what type of player and what quality he had as a player. He was limited in terms of game time at Liverpool, so that was the motivation for him, that he wanted to play week in, week out, and he needed to find the right club to come to be able to flourish and prosper, and that's what he's found here. I think he enjoys how we play and the players that he has to play alongside. So all in all, it's been a really positive move for everybody.
I suppose with January round the corner, a lot of clubs are going to have to put up with these stories for the next couple of months. Any player that's in form, because of the money that's available now, is going to be linked with moves away.
Yeah, that's the nature of it. We come towards the end of November, and it won't be too long before almost every press conference will be a debate about who's coming and who's going. So you started off quite early, actually. So it's shape a sign of things to come. But we have to accept it. That's how the league is structured, and the rules that we have to abide by. Only buying players in 2 short windows means it becomes the focus of everybody's thoughts. So we're not too far away from it once again, unfortunately.
Mark, you talked about Joe Allen moving from Liverpool here. Jack Wilshere's obviously on loan at Bournemouth. That must be a difficult decision as a player to make, to maybe move to somewhere like Bournemouth, but he needed more playing time. What have you made of him since he's done that, and do you think that was a good move as a player, as a former player? Yeah,
well, I think very similar to Joe's situation, I would have thought. Clearly, Jack's an outstanding young player, and he probably got to a time in his career where, given the injuries that he's had, he needed a fair run at playing week in, week out, and he's been honest and brave enough to realise that probably was going to happen, and he's probably been told that was the case. He wasn't going to get the consistent run of games that all players want. So I think he's made a decision that maybe surprised people because it was Bournemouth, but why should that surprise people? Because he's gone to a team that plays good football, which is clearly what he wants to do, and they're a settled, calm club with management that looks solid. So he knows that it's a stable club for him to rebuild his career and his playing time. So initially people might have been taken back by the decision, but if you look a little bit deeper, it makes a lot of sense for Jack.
Does it show a lot of character as a player? I mean, Joe as well showed a lot of character coming here and putting the performance.
Yeah, it's very, very easy, and I think we probably all could look back at players that you think, well, maybe took the easy option of just taking your money and sitting back and being part of a bigger club and all the benefits that brings, but without playing week in, week out, without that demand on you as an individual. So credit to him and Joe that they're prepared to put their reputations on the line by playing week in, week out, which all top players want to do.
Do you think the confidence that Joe's brought to your side has had a big effect in the dressing room and helped you to be on the run that you've been in the last 6 games?
Oh yeah, he's been a big part of that. Clearly, we've been able to get into situations where we're ahead in games, and that's helped us. Before, in the opening period of the season, we found ourselves chasing games against top level teams, and that was something that was beyond us at that time. But I think it's always the case. We build our season and build our performances. That's what we're doing. If you look at the results we've had up to this point, like for like results, if you take obviously the teams that went down last year and replace them with the teams that went up this year, the teams we've played, like for like results, points wise, we're better. So with 10, 11 games in, whatever it is, we're in decent shape, better than we were last year, and we got a top 10 finish last year. So we're in better shape now, clearly. It's up to us to maintain it.
How's Jack getting on?
Jack's progressing really well. We're really pleased. He's had a few setbacks, unfortunately, and it was a case of really understanding what was going on. And I think we fully understand the extent and the issue that he had after the operation. So he's back training with Andy Quire, our goalkeeping coach, and not fully up to speed, and he's not back with the group yet. But we're hopeful that if he has a good week next week, then he'll be back in training with the senior group. So that will mean he's back and not far away from playing again. So we're encouraged by what's happened the last couple of weeks. He's progressed really strongly, whereas before he'd get so far and then break down, and then we'd have to take a step back. That hasn't happened this time, so we're very positive at the moment. Touch wood.
It's been strong competition. They obviously, replacements coming in did a really good job.
Yep.
Is it going to be when he is fit again?
Yeah, it's difficult, but I think first and foremost, we've got to get him back fit and well, and make sure when he does come back, he's ready to have the impact that he had before the injury, which was clearly a huge impact for us and for him on an individual level. So we wanted him to get back to that level and be sound and be the keeper that we know he is and can be in the future. So we're thankful clearly that Lee's come in and done by far better than we could have anticipated, and that's credit to him as a player and as a professional. He's come in, he understood clearly the circumstances that he was coming into. He's coming in as a backup keeper, but he's had an opportunity and he's really grabbed it. So credit to him.
Mark, you've been fairly philosophical about the international break, but I think opinion is turning against it when you talked about it. I mean, there's a few examples here from Twitter. Have no positives about international football anymore, boring style of play, and non-stop injuries. Rivals side, the amount of injuries to important players only seen during this international break only strengthens why most fans hate them. And these international breaks are a curse. Clubs get nailed with injuries. Comes in the Christmas period, it's the last thing any club needs. Is it time to sort of have a good review of this?
Well, if you look or take a view solely on the impact on your club and your favourite team, then you could make a point that maybe the young man who's having a rant is correct on. Yeah, I know, but I'm not against international football. If you see the reaction when a national team gets to the last stages of a summer competition, it has a huge effect on the country as a whole. You see the effect that it had on Wales this year. I mean, it's a massive thing for a nation, and whatever you say about the top clubs in England or the world, then even if they win the top trophies, they'll get a reaction nationwide. So international football has a place and always have a place in my view.
But I would argue that you kind of got off quite lightly at this international break when it comes to injuries.
Yeah, I mean the international calendar is what it is, and I made the point earlier that you know that there's going to be demands on good players. If you buy international players, you have to accept that on occasions that they'll be away from you, and you have to keep your fingers crossed. Sometimes you'll have a good run and everybody comes back sound, but other times, unfortunately, you'll be damaged by it. But FIFA is the governing body. They put this international calendar in place. We can't really affect it. We can question in it, but to affect it, FIFA have the overriding decision in this regard, and it's very difficult to make them change their minds on a lot of things.
So can't sign you up for the protest against it?
Don't think so. No. All right, guys, no problem.